I would say conservatively within 8 weeks, the return was worth probably in excess of 2 million quid.
Wow.
But I think we only charged about €10,000 for the whole job start to finish.
Hi, my name is Julian Wee. I'm in my office in London, and my friend and colleague Rob Marr is with me via Skype. And Rob, you're working in, well, you're in a hotel room at the moment. Where are you, Sligo?
I am in Sligo, yeah. I'm working with one of my clients over in the west of Ireland, working on their sales and promotional campaigns. So we've got one of their American sales team over and also their sales support team here in Ireland. So we've been working on the strategy for the next 90 days.
So sales strategy, that's just one thing that you do. I know you very well. I've known you for a lot of years, but I know a lot about what you do because you've been doing your LinkedIn videos almost every day. Yeah. And I've been watching them avidly because I love your work and I like to keep track of my old mate. But you do sales training, you do all sorts of different things. You've been out in Texas. That's where I know that you did a bit of sales training with this business here. But you've been doing some values work. You've been helping people with their pitches and small businesses. It's very broad.
I suppose that's one of my challenges in the new year, is to really focus on what specific area I can add most value for my clients, because it does tend to be quite disparate. We do a range of things. A lot of it is focused around sales, business development, marketing, but it often extends to management, people development, culture initiatives, values, change, all that kind of stuff. So I end up working in a broad area with a broad range of clients, everything from, as we are at the moment, in the kind of equine tech industry, through to food, through to government programs, innovation. It's really quite broad, possibly too broad, you could even argue. And it's a whole range of things, but mostly I would say the central theme is around people and helping them adapt and change to help develop themselves and their businesses moving forward.
Yeah, that's good. You've got a central theme. Equine tech through to government programs. That's really broad. So there certainly is no vertical that you've specialised in. Do you see yourself doing that?
I don't think so. I was working in retail pharmacy quite a lot, not through choice, but nearly by default. And that just kind of happened. I ended up working in that sector for nearly 10 years in 4 different countries. Worked in Sweden, Ireland, the UK, Belgium. We did a lot of work. So that wasn't something I specifically aimed for. And I think I'm a person that likes variety and challenge and change myself. So I think it doesn't suit my character as a consultant or as a business coach to be stuck in one vertical or another. I like the fact that today I was referencing an insurance client with someone that's selling in a tech product into the US, and the fact that there's so much crossover between those two sectors. I can't see myself tying myself to one particular sector. I think it's more likely that I'll try and tie myself to a particular value that I can add for a client rather than a niche sector in itself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And the value you can add is around the people and change.
What's the most important thing to my clients? That's really the key element for all of my relationships, is when I set them up in the beginning, trying to understand what the outcome they need is. Anyone can sell days or work, but it's trying to figure out what's the end result they're looking for so that we can actually build out a strategy to deliver that. I know that sounds all very middle management and corporate rubbish, and some of it probably is, but it's really trying to get to the heart of what the customer's looking for from me, because when you sell your time, there's always an issue around cost. Because on paper, if you just look at what a consultant costs, you'd say it's crazy money for any consultant. But actually, when you look at the result they generate, then they're probably the cheapest solution to a long-term problem. So I think the benefit I can offer is a shortcut in many cases for my clients, where we take them from A to B 3 or 4 times faster than they would if they were trying to do it and learn all those mistakes through making them themselves. Plus the fact that I work in so many different sectors and have such a broad reference of experience, then I can bring all of that to bear onto their business, which allows them to not necessarily just adopt it, but challenge it, question it. Even today, one of the conversations having with the CEO was like, okay, I like that idea you had, but we might have to just invent something new for my own business. And I like that challenge that brings, but I also think the fact that we can bring all of that to the table for a client is incredible value that they just wouldn't be able to get in a normal employee situation, for example.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting what you say. On paper, it looks like the most expensive investment, and when you've got people on a day rate, I've heard of moratoriums around particular times of the year where we won't have contractors. Of course, contractors and consultants are the first to go when times get tough. Actually, when time gets tough, probably you need that external advice, don't you? You need that person to come in. So on paper, the return on investment is one of the best investments you're going to make. What's one of the, just really off the top of your head, one of the best examples that you've come across where you've added that value? And it may have looked expensive to begin with, but where actually you turn something around, just one word out of a 3-day engagement maybe, or a change that you were able to implement.
I have a simple example of that, and it's actually, I'm gonna sound like I've lost my mind here, because it's actually a time when I grossly undersold the result that we're going to deliver for a client. And actually, I think my frustration is looking back on it as an example. I'll share it with you in a second. Is that I knew at the time the value we were going to create because of the size of the client was going to be significant, but the bit I did poorly, I think, as a consultant was sell that effectively to the client. So I ended up talking about day rates and number of days when really we should have been talking more clearly about the strategy and the end result. So the job that we did with the pharmacy group in Belgium, I would say conservatively within 8 weeks, the return was worth probably in excess of 2 million quid.
Wow.
But I think we only charged about €10,000 for the whole job start to finish. And the time to them, the commitment to spend €10,000 on an external consultant was significant because it wasn't something they'd done before. But then at the end of that project, the value that was created was something that ended up being rolled out in 2 other countries. So I think quite often, I agree with you, when the times get tough, it's very easy to look at a consultant and go, God almighty, how are they justifying that rate? But usually, I think that is because the outcomes have not been clarified. And when you don't know what the outcome is going to be, then everything's expensive. And I think as well, if I could just broaden my rant slightly, there's an issue in my industry where I think it's morally imbalanced in that the client is looking to minimize cost and maximize upside. And the consultant is trying to maximize days because that's good for their business to have regular, consistent work over a period of time. So you have this conflict of interest where the client is trying to drive down number of days and trying to drive down cost. The consultant is trying to drive up days and increase revenue. And the one thing that neither party is talking about is the delivery of the outcome. So what happens is the contract takes far longer than it should take. No one is motivated by speed. And I saw a video on this recently online. The key consideration with a consultant should be getting to the end result as fast as possible with a minimum of effort so that everyone is working on the same page. So if the consultant is incentivized to get to the result quickly, the cost of it will be negligible because you'll have the result. But the problem is that the jobs drag out because of different contradictory motivations between the client and the consultant, and you end up with a no-win for either. And the client gets sick of the consultant, and the consultant can't add value because the job takes too long, and nobody wins. And that, in turn, then affects my industry because people don't want to pay for a consultant.
So when has it worked best? It's clearly been when you've got a chief exec, a leader at the top who does see the value of that consultant.
Yeah, it's impossible to be a consultant unless you've got the absolute most senior person in that business completely bought into what you're doing. Because I've worked in a couple of businesses, one just 2 years ago, where I actually had to kind of step back from it because I was becoming the story of the change that was going on. And I didn't have full support from the CEO. So when you don't have that full support, then you're arguing with the next line manager, and the next line manager doesn't have the authority to push something through to its conclusion. So the only consideration really is, does the owner or the leader of the business fully support and endorse the full body of work that you've got lined up? And are they completely clear about the result that's going to be generated? Because inevitably when I go into a company, or any of my colleagues go into a company, there is going to be, or should be, significant change. And if there's not significant change, then you're probably not doing a good enough job anyway. Because if they wanted to just maintain the status quo, you don't need me. So the challenge is to make sure they're completely bought in to both the timeframes and the outcome, and that if ever the wheels start to get a bit wobbly, that you can always go back to the owner or the CEO of that business and say, the wheels are getting wobbly, I need your backup, so that you can get back to forcing through the work you need to do.
Sure. 2 final questions. Firstly, what would you say to somebody who wanted to be a business coach and wanted to get into the business that you're in? Don't.
I'll actually give.
Sod off.
Yeah, don't. Sod off. Get off my territory. There's only room for me here. Please go away. No, obviously, everybody's welcome, just not where I live. In any other jurisdiction, it's absolutely fine. Be entrepreneurial. Good luck to you. So I think I would actually say some advice I got from the excellent Nathan Gold. I was fortunate enough to talk to Nathan, who'd be one of my kind of idols that I'd never met or spoken to. He's probably one of the world's best sales coaches. And the only word I disagree with is probably there. He's exceptional. And I remember he told me a story. I was lucky to get talking to him through a client. And he said, remember, Rob, no one is paying you for your advice. They're paying you for your coaching. And I think that to me was really a bit of an endorsement, but it was also quite powerful in that in many cases your client already has the answer. And what they really need is someone that's objective and calm and enthusiastic about their business to help them find that answer. You don't need to be an expert. I remember sat with one of my favorite clients in his car, and he was telling me a story about his business and how it wasn't working in this particular area. This is a very successful guy. He's got 700 staff, and massive companies, growing at an incredible rate. And I tried to proffer some advice for what I thought he should do in this situation. And he actually stopped the car, turned to me and said, Rob, I don't need your effing advice about how to run my business. I need you to coach me. And actually I was like, okay, Nathan has a point. This guy has a point. I think you've got to be really clear that your client more often than not does know where they want to go. They might need a little bit of guidance or expertise and maybe the benefit of some objectivity, but don't think you need to know everything to be a great consultant. You actually, sometimes the less you know, the better, so you're not bringing any baggage to the table.
What would you say to a chief exec of a business that you might want to meet in 2018?
What would I say? I'd say if you're ready for substantial change and transformational results that can be delivered in less than 12 months, I can definitely help you.